What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're back in here at Mahoning Valley Milling. Big thanks to John for letting us come in and use the shop and use some of the guns here. As you see in the title, we're going over the top 10 deer rifles here in America in 2025. So just so we know, we're going to see different guns from here in the shop. We're going to see some guns that are my personal guns and some guns that are personal guns of friends of mine. So we got a little bit of everything here. Really, there's no criteria for this. This is basically just kind of all opinion based, but there is also going to be, some factual evidence behind all this as well. So again, this stuff is all pretty much things that I like, but also things that are kind of, popular as well. But don't freak out if your favorite gun's not on this list. In fact, right now, drop down in the comments below and leave your favorite deer rifles down in the comments there. So a little bit of criteria for this list real quick before we go over it. First of all, I'm looking for reliability. Obviously, guns don't do any good if they're not reliable. Accuracy is a big important thing with deer rifles. So we're mostly looking at accurate rifles here. Affordability is sort of one too. Me personally, I don't like to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a rifle that I'm going to use for deer season. Some of you might, and that's fine, but generally speaking, these are going to be fairly affordable guns. And then finally, we have track record. So in other words, has the gun been around a while? Does it have a good reputation? All that good stuff. And then popularity. So again, whatever people like is kind of going to be a very important thing whenever I'm picking these 10 guns. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the first three guns I'm going to show you, I'm just going to kind of put them all together. So 8, 9, and 10 are all going to kind of be very similar to me. I'm going to call them the imports, okay? So we're going to have guns made in Spain, we're going to have guns made in Finland, we're going to have guns made in Japan, okay? Nothing wrong with imports in my opinion. In fact, I would argue, or some people would argue, that these imports like this Weatherby, like the Bergara, and like the Tikka that I'm going to show you, a lot of people would argue that those guns are better made guns than the American guns that you could get today. So me personally, I have nothing against them. However, when I think of deer rifles, I generally think of an American tradition. So I generally speaking like to go with American made guns. But at number 10, I'm going to put in this Weatherby Vanguard, okay? These are really great rifles made in Japan. Very smooth action. These have been around for quite a while. I believe they just recently moved their headquarters to Sheridan, Wyoming. And these are very, very good rifles, okay? Very accurate, pretty lightweight for the most part. Good synthetic stocks on most of those. These are a big favorite from a lot of guys hunting out west, which really all of these imports are. And then number 9 is one of the newer guns here, one of the newer companies. This is the Bergara B14, I believe is what the model is. This particular one is set up a little bit more for long range. These are very nice rifles as well. I like them. A lot of people like them a lot more than I do. I haven't really got into them a whole lot, to be honest with you, but they seem like they're well made. What are they? These are the ones that guarantee sub-MOA accuracy, which, I mean, who knows, but good enough. And then let's go into number 8 already, which is really one of my personal favorites as far as newer production guns on this list, and that's the Tikka T3X, okay? This one has the fluted bolt and fluted barrel, lightweight, affordable. These guns are very affordable for the most part. The newer models, made in Finland. I believe these were originally made by Seiko, is the parent company for these. And these guns are extremely, like I said, extremely light, good, smooth bolts, accurate, okay? Again, not a whole lot to say there on those first 3 guns. The imports, in my opinion, they're all accurate, they're all reliable, they got synthetic stocks. Again, there's not a whole lot to say about that, okay? So those 3 guns would be great deer rifles if you're looking for a newer one. But again, I personally like the more American-made stuff. So the rest of the list is going to be based on that, okay? And speaking of American, let's get into number 7, and that is the Ruger American. Now this one is the Gen 1, okay? I don't have a Gen 2 here with me right now, but either the Gen 1 or the Gen 2. The Gen 2s are a huge upgrade over the Gen 1, but either one would be just fine in my opinion. These guns are very reliable. They are pretty accurate. They're for what you're spending. You're getting pretty good accuracy, and really that's the big thing to me is you don't have to spend a whole lot on a Ruger American. You can find these for very affordable prices, and honestly, to me, that's one of the great things about the Ruger American is if I'm getting a deer rifle, a lot of times it's going to get beat up, it's going to get thrown inside of a side-by-side, behind in the back of a truck, whatever, banging around in a deer stand, and so they're kind of a good beater rifle, if you will, if you're somebody who doesn't want to spend a whole lot on one, or a good gun for a beginner, in my opinion, as well, especially the new ones with the adjustable stocks and everything. So those also come in a ton of different calibers, which honestly, guys, most of these guns come in quite a few different calibers. So I'm not really going to get into calibers that much because, you know, you just pick your favorite caliber and most of them will probably come in it. My favorite is 30-06, 308. I prefer 30 caliber bullets. But 6.5 Creedmoor, 270, 7mm 08, whatever, 243, you know, you pick your favorite caliber and plug it in. Really, you can find it in most of these guns, okay? All right, so number 6 on the list is a Ruger M77, okay? It could be the Hawkeye version, or in this case, I choose the Ruger Gunsight Scout Rifle, actually. This has been one of my favorite guns since I was a kid. And this particular rifle is a 16-inch barrel, has the forward-mounted Picatinny rail, also comes with regular scope rings, which I just put a 2-7 Leupold VX Freedom on here with the traditional scope mount because I didn't care for the Scout concept. A lot of people would say, why would you put a regular scope on a Scout rifle? Well, it's still very handy, very compact, and I really like the feel of the gun in general. It also comes with 10-round magazine, you know, in case the deer are ganging up on you or something. No, but I usually carry a 3-round mag for that one. But it does come with those 10-round magazines. I really like I believe it's the Mauser style action on the Ruger M77, okay? It has the 3-position safety, which is my favorite. All the way back means that the bolt is completely locked up. Halfway means that it's on safe, the trigger will not fire, but you can open the bolt. So if you need to clear a round out of there, you can still do that while it's on safe. All the way forward, obviously, is fire, okay? The reason I really like being able to lock it up is because when I'm carrying that gun on my shoulder like this, my hunting vest, if I'm carrying it, depending on which one I'm carrying, if I'm carrying it up or down like this, once in a while I've had that bolt on other rifles catch on my hunting vest and open up. And I've actually had my bolt completely wide open when I'm walking, and that's obviously not something you want to happen. So I really like having that bolt being locked up completely, and this gun is really my favorite if I'm walking while I'm hunting. So if I'm doing drives, if I'm still hunting or whatever, or if I were to go out, you know, somewhere where I had to hike a long ways, this would be the gun that I would take. I also choose the, like I said, the 2-7 Leupold. I like having the 2 power for doing drives and whatnot, or being in thick brush. You have a really good field of view, but then you crank it up to 7 power, and I can easily shoot out to 200 or 300 yards, which honestly, in most cases, I'm not shooting past 300 yards anyway. So that is my personal rifle right there, the Scout rifle. You might see me do another couple videos on that. But yeah, that one's got a stainless barrel and everything. But that goes for really any M77 action Ruger, okay? All right, in at number 5, this is a rifle that if we were doing just the most historic deer rifles or the longest serving deer rifles, these would probably be number 1. But this is the Savage Model 99, okay? Lever action, okay? And actually I'm going to just say right now that this would be a tie with, say, a Winchester 94 or a Marlin 336, okay? Some sort of lever action rifle. These have been used obviously all the way back since the 1800s, and they've been used to take deer and other big game across all of North America for well over 100 years. And still today, this is one of my buddy's rifles, and I was just telling him, man, if I had this rifle, I think that's what I would use, honestly, this deer season. He's got a scope on this one, which if you're a historical purist or something like that, or a traditionalist, you're probably going to be mad about the scope on the 99, which, whatever, a lot of them got sporterized and they got scopes on them and everything over the years. So yeah, it would be cool to have one with iron sights as well. But either way, it's still just as effective. And honestly, guys, these guns, although they may not look as pretty or as cool, I take that back. I think they do look as pretty, but they might not look as fancy as the other guns. These are probably responsible for killing more deer than I will ever get in my entire lifetime. Okay, so whether it be the Savage Model 99, Winchester 94, any other type of lever action, this particular one is in 308, but 30-30 obviously probably one of the most common calibers for the lever actions as well. Yeah, not much to say there. It's just an American classic, honestly a piece of history. Okay, these guns are awesome. Deer rifles still to this day, like I said, could still be used every single year for deer season. All right, coming in at number 4 is the classic Remington Game Master Model 760. Okay, talk about American classic, a pump action 30-06. I've heard people call this the Amish AK. All right, and it's an awesome rifle, deer rifle. Chambered in 30-06, I've seen them in 270 as well. Bunch of different calibers. Most common around my area is the 30-06, and these are awesome. Like I said, American classic guns. These were made throughout the 1900s, like later 1900s, through the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. And they're very effective rifles, very reliable, all that kind of good stuff. These ones, I think you can actually get 10-round magazines for them as well, which kind of silly, but also pretty cool. So I like that, these guns originally came with iron sights, which is something you do not see on pretty much any newer rifles anymore, right? They all come optics ready, which is great because most people use scopes. Me personally, I like to have options. So I like that these guns originally came with iron sights. And so honestly, I usually prefer a bolt action. Again, this is another friend's gun. I prefer bolt actions usually because I'm probably only shooting 1 or 2 shots, but these are really nice. They're gonna have very fast follow-up shots and stuff like that. And again, guys, I don't know, it doesn't get a more American gun in my opinion than a bolt action 30-06. So the Remington 760 is in at number 4. All right, and then number 3 is kind of crazy. I don't have one here, but it's a Winchester Model 70. These were great guns, again, made back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. And they were probably, a lot of people would argue, the best deer rifle, okay, or one of the best American rifles ever made. Whether you get the featherweight version, whatever caliber you go with, these were great, reliable, accurate rifles. I mean, really, when it comes to a deer rifle, there's not a whole lot much more to talk about other than reliability and accuracy. But these were well-made guns, millions of them across America probably, and again, have killed many, many deer, okay? The only reason that I don't have the Winchester Model 70 a little bit higher up in the list is because I just really have never messed with them. I just haven't really had that much experience. I've seen them, I've handled them a lot, but I've never hunted with one. I've actually never shot one before. And also, I think the newer ones are made in Portugal, which just to me is a little bit weird hearing that Winchesters are made overseas. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with imports, but at the end of the day, I still like my American rifles. All right, so coming in at number 2 is pretty much the same thing as the Winchester, except it's a Remington version, right? It is the Remington 700. It's not, the same gun itself, but it would be their competitor, I guess you could say. And the Remington Model 700, in my opinion, I have used these forever. They've been used in the military, which, by the way, the Winchester was too. These are great bolt action rifles. Again, very accurate, very reliable. I know throughout the, I would want to say like the early 2000s, they got into the new adjustable triggers and everything. That's what this one actually has. And people weren't real crazy about them. I really wasn't crazy about this one when I first got it, but the more I've used it over the years, the more I've really come to like it. In my opinion, it has the smoothest action of any of the guns that I've talked about. It is a very, smooth action with the internal spring magazine. So this one is the BDL version. One thing I didn't mention is wood stocks versus synthetic. Yeah, synthetic is better for bad weather. It's better, a lot of people say it's better accuracy and all that stuff. That's probably true. Me personally, when it comes to a deer rifle, I just like the look and feel of a wood stock, okay? Again, I'm not trying to shoot sub-MOA accuracy out to 700 yards necessarily. I'm just trying to hit a deer at 200 or 300 yards at the most, okay? So anyways, the wooden stock I think is beautiful. Yeah, you'll see this one is a little bit dinged up and stuff because, like I said, it's a deer rifle. It's not a safe point, okay? So again, not a whole lot to say about it, but just another American classic. I have a Vortex scope on this one. This is a Crossfire, really one of their cheapest scopes. Nothing wrong with it, to be honest. Every year I keep saying I'm going to upgrade and get a loophole or some other sort of American-made glass or American-made scope anyways. And every year I think about that. I look through this Vortex and honestly it's just perfectly fine. So I've never had a reason to change it. Maybe someday in the future, but this one I didn't have to. This one did come with iron sights. I actually took them off so I could see through the scope better. I know I was just talking about how I like open sights, but with this one I just took them off. But it did come with the iron sights. That's the BDL version, okay? Most of them do not come with sights. Yeah, I don't know, not a whole lot else to say about this one. I keep the little cheek pad on there with the pouch, keep spare ammo, a lens cloth for the scope, and maybe or maybe not a Slim Jim or two, okay? But this is my favorite deer rifle, honestly, as far as if I'm looking for just efficiency, and if I had to go out right now and say I, had the biggest buck of my life 250 yards away, that's the gun I would choose to use right now. All right, coming in at number 1. This is a little bit of a wild card, and really it's subjective, okay? So it could be anything. But I'm gonna go with Great Grandpa's Old Savage. Or in other words, you could just say, whatever deer rifle you were handed down by your dad or your grandpa or your uncle or whoever, whatever deer rifle you were given by your family, honestly is probably just as good as anything out there, or at least it's going to be sufficient for what you need to do with it. This gun is my favorite. Arguably, this might be my favorite rifle that I own. This is a Savage Super Sporter. This particular one was made back in the 1930s, I believe, based on the serial number. I couldn't quite track it down exactly, but regardless, it's very old. It's pushing 100 years. This one is chambered in 30-06. Back in the day, these were pretty affordable, cheap guns, okay? But even today, they're not worth a whole lot money-wise, but to me, it's a very sentimental gun. That, like I said, this belonged to my great-grandpa, and the story was he used to shoot deer with it, obviously, and groundhogs and all kinds of stuff. But the story was on New Year's Eve every night when the clock struck midnight, he would shoot this gun outside the window and scare the crap out of everybody in the family. So just kind of a cool story there. I was given this gun a few years ago, back when I was a teenager, and I needed a gun to hunt with, and this is what my grandpa had, and guess what? That year I shot 2 deer with it, okay? And yeah, it's just got iron sights, which honestly to me are perfect for drives and if I'm hunting in brush, so a lot of people prefer that anyways. Again, it's all banged up and whatnot. The first year I hunted with it, believe it or not, my grandpa couldn't find the magazine for it, okay? So I literally hunted with it like it was a single shot rifle. Okay, I put 1 round in it and then I had to take it out, and luckily we found the magazine, which holds 3 rounds, I believe. So that made life a lot easier. But to me, guys, these are old American classic guns that you really can't be replaced. This one, cool. Another cool story, as you see the stock actually, the butt plate is gone. I don't know where the butt plate was. Okay, it was another thing that got lost in Grandpa's house. And the stock was actually broken. If you look closely, you can see there's a line right there where that stock was broken right off, almost in half. My dad and I had to get some wood screws and wood glue and put it back together. We actually reinforced it with a golf tee. So it was kind of just a cool experience doing that with my dad, and you know, bringing back this old rifle to life. And I just threw, if I can get it back on here, I just threw this cheap stock cover on it from Amazon, but I think it looks pretty cool on there by itself. Looks kind of antique-ish and vintage. So again, number one is not necessarily my rifle. To me, yes, this is my number one deer rifle. If I had all of these other rifles and I had to sell every single one of them except for one, this is the one that I would keep, okay? Mostly because it's sentimental. So for you, your number one deer rifle honestly might be just some old cheap piece of junk gun that your great grandpa gave you, okay? But again, they're going to be effective. Like I said, I've shot multiple deer with this gun and had no issues. They all went down just the same, okay? So, all right, guys, let me know what you think in the comments, if you agree with that list or not. I just kind of threw it together based on my personal experience and my opinions. But again, I'm sure I missed out on a lot of different guns, okay? So drop a comment down below, critique me, criticize me, let me know if you have any questions. And as always, like and subscribe, and keep blasting.